That's right. But anyway, so congratulations. All right, so that's exciting. Just want to share that this morning. We're going to return to our series on the wilderness that we took a mini break from last week on Easter, which was a great service. I had a wonderful time. I love that last song that you guys did this morning. That was really good. And I thought it was funny because, you know, the 10 a.m. version of that song is, "Our God's roaring like a lion," and the noon version is, "Roaring like a lion." Very different attitude just 2 hours later. I'll tell you that much. But I got to go back. That was a great song. I really did. Since last we talked, we talked about Numbers 13 and 14 a few weeks ago, and we're going to fast forward just a little bit now in the wilderness to a couple things are going on. But just so you guys can see what's happened since last we talked, the children of Israel had been the Lord's decree, and they would not be allowed to enter the Promised Land. So you can understand there's some frustration there. And so the children of Israel now, knowing that the older folks weren't going to get to go in to the Promised Land, we're dealing with some issues, dealing with some hardships in reality. So there was a rebellion in the camp, and that rebellion was actually led by the priests. That's always a good thing. When the rebellion against God is being led by the people in charge of leading them spiritually. And then God actually showed by destroying the people that talk bad about leadership. Actually, the Bible says the ground opened up and they were swallowed. Entire families, tents, everything. So that's happened since last we talked. So fast forwarding now, this morning we're going to talk about a situation in the desert where we see Moses encountering another complaint from the children of Israel. Now, you have to keep in mind that everything from here on out is post the complaint, post God telling them they're not going to enter the kingdom of heaven. And so this morning we're talking about bitterness in the rock. And Dwayne Johnson. Take a look in Numbers. We're going to fast forward to Numbers chapter 20. It says, "In the first month, the whole Israelite community arrived at the desert of Zin, and they stayed at Kadesh. There Miriam died and was buried." Now remember, just a few weeks ago, the role of Miriam played this thing going on. So now there was no water for the community, and the people gathered in opposition to Moses and Aaron. Stop me here. They quarreled with Moses and said, "If only we had died when our brothers fell dead before the Lord. Why did you bring the Lord's community into this wilderness, that we and our livestock should die here? Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to this terrible place? It has no grain or figs, grapevines, or pomegranates, and there is no water to drink." Now there's a slight change in the wording they use here. This isn't their just basically a class complaint, form and file it with Moses. They actually complain a little differently here. They actually say, "If only we had died when our brothers fell dead before the Lord." Because this is a different generation of Israelites you're dealing with now. Because really at this point, since they left Egypt, we're dealing with 38 years. Okay, so a lot of those people that were complaining all the time about the bread and the pots of meat, all the things that they were missing, they've died. They moved on. So this is a group of people that is the next generation. This is the next group. So ask yourselves an interesting question. God said that unless you are under 20 years old, you're not going to see the Promised Land. So here they are, they're coming up against it still, they're getting close again, they're coming up to that area now where as the people are dying off. So you have an entire group full of people that don't have any recollection of what Egypt was like. Right? None of these people were even there. And yet what are they complaining about? They're complaining about the same thing, but they don't know. They're saying, "Well, there was pomegranates in Egypt." Did you eat pomegranates in Egypt? No, but my mom and dad told me. These people are dealing with the same issues their parents dealt with, right? They're complaining on behalf of their parents. I heard a really interesting phrase this week by a sports writer who used the phrase, "I inherited my hatred." And he was talking about how when he's a child of Cuban descent, and so when there's a famous baseball manager who made some questionable remarks, and that's my nice way of saying it. Anyway, so the Cuban community in Miami, where he happens to manage, because if you're going to say something to offend a group of people, offending the Cubans in Miami is very smart, and he made a series of very stupid statements. Well, anyway, the sports writer, who's well known, came out and said, "I inherited my hatred of Fidel Castro. I'm child of human descent, but I was not raised there. My parents escaped there long before I was born. So I grew up hating him, although it's not my hatred. I really have no basis for hating him. So what you have here is you have a group of people who are doing what? They're inheriting their whininess. Right? They're inheriting, oh, Egypt was fantastic. Because they had to get that from somewhere. This is a group of people that didn't grow up there. They weren't raised there. So they're complaining the same way their parents did. They're making the same argument their parents made. They're complaining in the same fashion, basically molding the complaints in the same way their parents did, but they're not, really, it's not as personal. Now they're just complaining, and that's even more annoying. Because they've inherited their complaints. Which means that their parents, all along, were complaining in front of them. We hate this. Egypt had pots of meat and bread. It had everything we wanted. It was the greatest place on earth. So what do you end up with? A kid who's like, Egypt is the greatest place on earth. Even though I never lived there. But I'm going to complain anyway. And it says, why could not we have died when our brothers fell? So they actually know that the previous generation has passed on. So Moses is dealing with, it's one thing to deal with a group of whiners, now to deal with that group of whiners' children, who all have the same problem. Would be kind of frustrating, right? I was thinking about that. You ever watch television and you see that teacher who gets the really obnoxious kid, and they go, you just remind me of your dad. Right? This is what Moses had to be feeling. He's standing there going, are you serious? You are just like your dad. You complain about the same things that your dad did. And so he's dealing with it. So you understand, we're giving Moses some context here. So Moses and Aaron went from the assembly to the entrance of the tent of meeting and fell face down. And the glory of the Lord appeared to them. The Lord said, take the staff, and you and your brother Aaron gather the assembly together, speak to that rock before their eyes, and it will pour out its water. You will bring water out of the rock for the community, so they and their livestock can drink. So Moses took the staff from the Lord's presence, just as he commanded to do, and he and Aaron gathered the assembly together in front of the rock, and Moses said to them. All right, so now we're following the pattern, right? The pattern is that the children of Israel come with their complaints. We have a complaint, we'd like to file a complaint. And I was reading one theologian who made a really interesting statement. He said, it's easy to mock them and get frustrated with them. He goes, but until you've been thirsty, you can't really understand. Until you've sat there for days without water, it's one thing to look at them and go, I just don't understand why they don't get it. But until you've sat there without water for days, and you see your animals suffering, you see your family suffering, you see your livelihood suffering, and all these things. And so, they come with their complaints, they go, look, we don't have any water, we're thirsty, we're dying. Why couldn't we have just died along with our parents? And then Moses comes in and says, all right, I will take your complaints to the Lord, I will intercede on your behalf. So Moses comes, falls face down, intercedes once again on their behalf, and says, God, we're going to need some water. The people are complaining. And then God brings deliverance. He says, and what does he tell Moses to do? Walk up to the rock and speak to it. All right? Just go up and say, how's it going, rock? We could use some water. Right? That's all he's supposed to do. That's what Moses' job is to do. And so, basically, it's kind of all going along what has been the typical pattern for deliverance. And then we kind of run into a slight change. Moses basically yells at them, listen, you rebels, must we bring you water out of this rock? And then Moses raised his arm and struck the rock twice with his staff. Water gushed out, and the community and their livestock drank. So, what we have here is, by the way, that picture is fantastic. That's a lot of water. And then I love that lady sitting there with the rock on like this. Thank you, Moses. Yeah, I love it. So very accurate. So it says that, listen, you rebels, must we bring you water on the rock? So we have a couple actions that take place here that are very different than the way Moses responds to the people. Moses has been dealing for 38 years with the same complaints, with the same problems, with the same frustrations, with the same attitude, with the same discussions, all of these things. And what's happened is Moses is kind of allowed in this one moment that his bitterness has begun to take root in his life. And it has begun to affect his actions. You see, here he has this moment of just sheer frustration because he's just tired of it, and he makes two huge mistakes in this moment. First of all, he claims credit for what's about to happen. What did Moses say? He said, "Do we have to bring you water from this rock again?" Who's we, Moses? Right? But that's what he says. He walks up to the rock and he goes, "Listen, you little jerks." I mean, but basically he's mad. He says, "Listen, you little jerks, do I have to bring you water again?" And puts himself in position to remove deliverance from God from the situation and to apply credit for what's about to happen to himself and to Aaron. He says, "Do we have to do this again?" I mean, you can see it, right? Did you feel Moses just letting that bitterness just kind of ooze out? Do we have to do this again? And the second thing he does is he allows his anger to well up into action. And this isn't righteous anger. The Bible says he hit the rock twice with a stick. But what's amazing is that God still provides water.
Yeah.
Because he's still caring for the children in spite of the bitterness. But then he says something that's very interesting. He says, "The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not trust in me enough to honor me as holy in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring this community into the land I give them." So here's Moses, 38 years. I'm telling you, this is the Bible's tragic error. 38 years. He deals with the most whiny, obnoxious, thankless group of people. Right? Around every corner. Faithless, frustrating. And Moses has somehow managed to kind of walk that line between you eat the gold and righteousness all the time. And then here he is, right? It's right over there. The other generation's finally dying off. You know, at this point, Moses wasn't going anywhere without the staff probably at this point anyway, right? I mean, he's walking with that thing. He's barely getting around. And so, here he is. He lets his frustration get the better of him. He lets his bitterness become action. And he says some things he shouldn't have said. He takes credit, obviously, for things that he did not hold the Lord as holy. And he hits the rock with a stick. And what did he lose? He doesn't get to lead the community in the promised land, right? That's rough. 38 years he put up with these people at this point. 38 years. I mean, and the reality is he had every right to be bitter. He did. You ever sit with someone and they start telling you their story and you can feel their bitterness, but deep down inside you're like, gosh, I don't know how you would be bitter. That's rough. He's got every right to be annoyed with these people, to be bitter at these people, and to be angry with these people. He's got every right. The constant rebelling. All the time. I go up the mountain for 8 minutes, you make a golden calf. 8 minutes I'm going. You guys can't do anything without a cow for 8 minutes, right? The constant whining. The constant embellishing, right? Because they did. They embellished constantly. Egypt was amazing. Fantastic. Pots of meat everywhere. Me and Moses is going, what Egypt are you talking about? Because I missed it. What Egypt are you talking about? They embellished all the time. They embellished about how bad it was. They embellished about how good it was. The constant lack of faith that he had to deal with. Moses is dealing with the most thankless group of individuals the world has ever seen. Ever. He's got every right to just be about stuff. And think about what the last straw here was. Their kids are just like, do you ever go, boy, the next generation, we're going to be okay? You guys are like, turn my eyes and you're in trouble. But you know, you look at your kids, you think they're going to be better than I am, right? I hope you think that about your children. They're going to be better than I am. I'm going to raise them better than my parents raised me. I'm going to provide them better than I was provided for. I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to be better so they can be better. That's my goal. And then they grow up to be just like you. Right? Same problems, same whininess, same laziness, whatever. And you're like, what's wrong with that kid? Right? But that's what happens. And see, so Moses, think about Moses. He's gone through this. He's finally said, good God, we've smitten them all. The children will be thankful. And the children whine just like their parents. So Moses finally reaches a point. So looking at the context, God in the context of Moses, Moses had grown increasingly embittered because of the children of Israel. This was not an instantaneous thing. He was able to deal with a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here. But over time, it got worse. It got worse. It got worse. And these actions in this moment were not the actions of a righteously angry man. You can be angry and not sin. You absolutely can. Righteous anger is okay. But this is not righteous anger. This is the bitterness. The bitterness that had grown to such a point that he acted to spite Israel at his own peril. He was so bitter and angry and frustrated that he knew what he was doing was wrong. But he was willing just to get a shot. Right? He was willing just to say it. He didn't walk up and talk to the rock. Who did he talk to? Children of Israel. Why? Because it's time. It's time to hear how much you frustrate me. It's time to hear how much I'm mad at you. I'm going to take this moment, even at my own peril, even at my own sacrifice. I'm going to take this moment and I'm going to lay into you and I'm going to lay it out. And that's what he does. And he turns around and hits the rock twice in anger. Just because he's mad. You ever hit something to make yourself feel better? Everybody does. Even women, I know. If you emotionally hit something, but you hit something. Right? You do. I'll tell you, there are times like when I'm fixing stuff and it requires the hands of a 2-year-old with the strength of He-Man. You ever fix something like that, like on a car engine? You're like, how am I supposed to reach that? Who on earth can reach that? You start turning stuff, before you know, you just grab the engine and throw it. And you're like, I might have gone backwards with this task. Right? Or you just can't get something to fit right, so you just hammer it. And you're like, probably should have just cut it one more time. But we do. And that's what he does. He just lets that bitterness, that anger, had got into him so far that he was willing to do whatever it took to spite Israel. He was so mad. And I don't know deep down inside if he knew it would cost him the promised land. I'm not going to sit here and say that he knew that was going to happen. But I guarantee he knew God wasn't going to be happy. But I think probably he thought maybe at this point I've earned a little bit. You know, God, apparently you're willing to deal with their whininess, but I'm not. I'm going to let them have it. And I'm going to tell them the truth, because what's like the truth? But see, Moses wasn't judged by God by the actions of everybody else. He was judged by his own actions. God didn't go, well, I understand you're frustrated. They frustrate me, so let's just sit around and talk about how frustrated they are together. He doesn't. He says, what you did was wrong. You and Aaron took credit for what I'm here to do. You and Aaron did not do what I told you to do. And up to this point, you've done really well, but this was the last straw. And because you chose to do that, I am not going to allow you to promise land. We're going to look at our own lives. Bitterness is an interesting thing. I consider bitterness a gateway emotion. And the reason I consider that is because it opens the gates in our lives. It allows every other unhealthy emotion to have a nice place to hang out. Right? Because when you're bitter, you can justify how you feel that anything, right? I'm angry. And I'm bitter. So it's okay that I have contempt for you. Right? Remember that line Red Dawn, all the hate's going to burn you up, keep you warm. Right? Come on, Red Dawn? No? Nothing here. It's one of my favorite lines of movie history. Keeps me warm. But the reality is bitterness is a gateway emotion. Bitterness grows in us. It's not always because of a singular action or a singular moment. Sometimes it takes time. Maybe we get tired of our jobs. Maybe we get tired of the way our boss treats us. Maybe we get tired of being the boss. Maybe we get tired of whatever. And before you know it, we start getting kind of annoyed by our employees. We get annoyed by our boss. We get annoyed by our spouse. We're annoyed by our children. They're thankless. They don't do what we ask them to do. Our spouse isn't great. Our spouse isn't as amazing as they were supposed to be. Maybe because that was in the contract. Amazing. And before you know it, you start letting those little seeds of bitterness, they start to plant deep inside of us. And the amazing thing about the seed of bitterness is it grows. And then what happens is it allows all the other emotions we feel to be okay and justified. Right? I'm mad at you, and I'm bitter, so it feels good. Or I really hope you don't have a good life, because I'm so bitter at you, I really hope it's bad. And we're okay with it. Contempt, I think, is the quick step from bitterness. So we start feeling contempt for people. We start hoping bad things on them. You know, maybe at first it's something small, like stepping in a hole or getting a flat tire. But after a while, it's whatever makes us feel better. Because we have to continue to water the bitterness. Because it grows, and the more it grows, the more our attention and our energy it needs. And what happens with Moses is all this time, Moses is letting this stuff brew. And he's getting more and more upset. And he's got every right to be. But he's letting it grow. And as it grows, he's getting worse and worse. To the point where God gives him a very simple job. Talk to the rock. Okay. You rebels, I'm doing this again. Smack. No, that wasn't it. But I guarantee deep in Moses' heart, he felt justified. They deserved it. They're rebels. I'm tired of doing the job. But we start to say things and feel things that are just not us, right? Oh, man, I never thought I'd feel that way about somebody. I never thought I'd be that upset. I actually wish harm on someone. Or that I wish they'd lose their job. Or that I wish they had a bad life or that they were unhappy. But we do. And we like to make people sit in our bitterness. We think they're not, but we think they are. And we go, you know I'm bitter at you. I bet it bothers you all day. I had no idea. It grows even more. And that contempt, jealousy, I think is a gateway emotion to every unhealthy emotion. And it grows. To the point to where we risk things at times to feed it. We have a moment, so I'm going to say it. I'm going to dig one more time. I'm going to push the knife in there and twist it just a little bit because I can. Do I know I'm going to end up paying for this someday? You bet. But you know what? It feels good right now. And I guarantee when Moses hit the rock with that stick, he felt fantastic. I guarantee it. I'll bet he went, yes! And that's why he did it again. Yes. That's exactly why he hit it again, right? Second time not as good. But the first time was amazing. And he hit it again. Yes! And God's like, well. Now what's interesting is Moses probably went, thank you. Just kill me here in the wilderness. I'm done. Because it just had exhausted him so much. Bitterness is a scary, scary thing. And the thing about bitterness is you have to catch it early. Because when it grows, you have that full-grown thing that grows inside of us. Before you know it, we're doing things that are not our personalities. We're doing things out of emotion that are not healthy. And we don't even realize it. We're doing things just to feed it. But see, when we have to make account for our actions, we won't be able to point fingers at somebody else. You know, we don't get to go, yeah, but they made me that way. No, it's still a choice. Moses had every right to look at God and go, but look at them, they're awful. I have every right to be mad. But he didn't. Why? Because God went, really? Fine. But that's what it is. Is that when we have to give an account, when we have to say, all right, God, here's what I did with what you gave me. Here's how I lived my life. Here's the things that I did. We don't get to go, yeah, but they made me mad. And I had to get back at them. It was the only way I felt better. We have to be responsible for the righteous nature or unrighteous nature of our actions, no matter what. And see, you look at the tragic reality of what was Moses, and you say, man, it's just hard to fathom that God would let all of that go on and still provide deliverance for those people. But then the one time Moses goes, oh, man, he loses everything. But that's the reality. And the other thing that's interesting about bitterness is if you let it grow to a point to where it becomes part of who you are, that is a long journey back from letting that stuff go. It is a long road back to get rid of it. And that's where we talk. The reality with Moses was maybe there was no road back. Maybe Moses had no desire at all to go into the promised land with them because the bitterness had gotten so bad. You've seen people like that, haven't you? Who would rather just live their lives in the solitude of loneliness because they're so angry at the world. They just can't deal with it. Because when you start letting that stuff take place, it's a long road back once you let it grow to maturity inside. It is a long, long, long road back. And you've seen so many people say, oh, I'm mad at the church because I got hurt. When? 1905. Pastor looked at me funny, did one of these. I knew he was condemning me for my sin. So I hate the church. You've been living with 100 years of bitterness? Yep. No, I'm fine. Hey, look at it. Good that young. But the reality is, you let that stuff keep you warm, you're going to have a problem. And I know there are lots of cool, fun ways to do it. The reality is how do I deal with my bitterness? And this is really simple. First, the awful one, you have to daily forgive others and pray for their blessing. Don't just say, I forgive them. Pray that God bless them. And don't do one of these, and bless with boils. Because guess what? That's not forgiveness. That's not forgiveness at all. And hopefully you didn't need me to tell you that. But the reality is learning to forgive daily. Paul says, do not let the sun go down on your anger, because it gives the devil a foothold. It gives the devil a foothold. Because once he gets in there, he grabs on and he holds on for all it's worth. And the problem, and I'll tell you right now, the devil loves bitter Christians. They're the best warriors he's got. Because they drive the good people right out of the church, don't they? They do, and they're good at it. They're like piping the door. You can't get in because their bitterness has grown to such an extent. But you have to be very careful. You have to learn to forgive daily, no matter what happens. Learning to forgive. And pray for the blessing of others. Pray for the good things to happen in their life. Pray for God to have a breakthrough in their life. Pray that whatever the offense was to you that was just so great that it's caused you to have such emotional turbulence that they've learned to deal with it. And this is something. Remember Romans 12. This is a really good set of verses that everyone should have in their house, or memorize, or in your life. And it's a good set of verses to read over and over again. It says, bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Start there. Once you master that, take about 10 years. Then, continue on. Rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay Do not repay anyone for evil for evil, and be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. So what does that say? As much as it's in your control, live at peace. So are there going to be Christians who are in situations that are not peaceful? Yes. Right? But as far as it's your job. And then, do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, it is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. I was reading a really interesting story on forgiveness today, this morning, lots of Starbucks. It was written by a guy who's really good through some horrible stuff. And he was angry. Something had happened to one of his children. And he was angry. And he lived with this for 20 years. And he was just rooting for just bad things to happen to the perpetrator of the situation. And he was dealing with learning how to forgive. And one of the things that was interesting was he says when he read that verse, that there was something in verse 19 that really changed it. God doesn't forget. It's our job to forgive. It is our job to move on. It is our job to let go. Nowhere does it say he does. You know what I'm saying? And one of the things that's really hard for us is that we would really reverse that. We'd say, vengeance is ours, says me. God will forgive them. Right? Or we have that really horrible prayer where we just know God's going to forgive them and we're really upset about that? Come on, you're being honest, right? People have had that prayer. I've said it once or twice. Yeah, seriously. I forgive everyone. I love it. But the Bible says that it is mine to avenge and I will repay. It does not say that as the Lord God Almighty I will forget. He will take care of it. And ultimately, how He takes care of it is way better than how you're going to take care of it. Because how you're going to do it is going to hurt you. Our job is to forgive and to move on. And to let go. And I understand. Forgiveness is a weird thing. You hear people say it's a process, it takes time. It does. But it doesn't mean that you need to live bitter until you feel the process has worked out. It is your job to aid in the process of forgiveness, not be a detriment to the process of forgiveness. Which means you have to sit back and say, I know that God will avenge. God will take care of it, whatever the offense was. And it is my job to forgive daily those who hurt me. It is my job to move on. And this one's a little bit more of a selfish thing, but know that your precious days of your life are too valuable to waste on unforgiveness. The church doesn't need to waste any more time on unforgiveness. The days of your life are way too important to waste on unforgiveness. Your days are too important to waste on unforgiveness. Whatever time that you are wasting on bitterness and hanging on is your loss, and you are throwing your life away. Benjamin Franklin said, if you're worried about what other people think about you, they're not. So all that unforgiveness, all that bitterness, all that anger, all that junk that we hang on to is only stealing our lives away. It is not cutting short any of their days. So if you have something you feel it's important that I seethe about until I die, the reality is the only person you hurt is you. And your days are way too important for that. Way too important. Think about Moses in that moment. He got to watch water come out of a rock just by walking up and talking to it. But rather than share in God's blessing in that moment for those children that he was going to let in the promised land, Moses was so angry and bitter that he just had to take that moment and say something. And do something to make himself feel better. That ultimately cost him everything. Our days are too important to waste on unforgiveness. And finally, bitterness never, ever changes you for the better. Ever. And do not think, even for a moment, that anything you are bitter about is an isolated thing in your life, and you can keep it in this little storage cabinet over here. You can't. If you're bitter about something, if you're angry about something, it will permeate the rest of your life. You will find yourself saying something like, man, why did I just yell at the kids like that? Oh, yeah. Because something's creeping in everywhere. You find yourself saying things and yelling at people and being angry about stuff, and you're like, well, that's just my personality. The reality is, whatever it is that you're hanging on to that's made you angry, whatever it is, you've got deep down inside, that bitterness is clinging on to stuff. It just grows into everything. Before you know it, you find yourself talking poorly to your wife, your husband, and you don't know why. Before you know it, you're yelling at your kids. You never saw yourself as someone yelling at your kids, right? But all of a sudden you're yelling at your kids. All of a sudden you find yourself being really abrasive at work. You find yourself being frustrated. And what's weird in all of that, God just quit talking to you. Right? Because God always quits talking to you when you need Him most. Right? Isn't that how you feel when you're bitter? No? Nobody? When I'm bitter, God quits talking to me. Right? It's not that He quit talking, I'm just too bitter to listen. I just assume He's busy. Because I need Him right now, and that's just the way it is over there. And this is lame, and I hate it. Right? And we turn into like little 12-year-old girls who are angry. Right? We're giving God a side of God's going, okay. Couldn't use you right now anyway, big boy. But it's amazing how God gets really quiet when you're really bitter. It's because we're too bitter to hear Him anyway. We're too bitter to listen. You know what I'm saying? You gotta let it go. You gotta let stuff go. Somebody wronged you this morning, let it go before lunch or after lunch. If something went wrong, if your spouse has made some mistakes, you got to let it go. You got to let it go. Because you can make an environment which should be good so awful, so fast, by choosing to not forgive. If you find yourself mistreating people, maybe take a long step back, look at your life and go, what exactly am I angry about? You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it may take a little time. It may take a few layers. A long journey back if you've been on the road of bitterness for a while. You know? It can be. You'd be like, well, I'm really angry about this, but that can't be it. I'm angry about that, but that can't be it. I do listen to a lot of conservative radio. You know? Something has you upset. And just know that it never changes you for the better. You will not be a better person if you're hanging on to something. I'm telling you right now, you might be able to live and exist in a consistent manner for a while, so it will end. No matter how strong you are, it will end. And you will find yourself being more turbulent and angry and up and down and frustrated and mad. Whatever it is, you gotta let it go. There are a lot of kinds of horrible things that can happen to us. A lot of horrible things can happen to us as people that alter who we are. You gotta let it go. You gotta learn to just forgive. And just know that you're just getting worse the more you hang on to it. One day you wake up alone, and that's not cool. You know what I'm saying? So let's pray. Let's close with prayer. Father, we just thank you this morning for lessons learned that we can see in your word. And 30 minutes sermon, you can't cover it. You normally do this kind of topic. It really is, to me, the central part of what's going on here with Moses. And Father, I pray that there are any areas in my life that I'm hanging on to stuff and I just refuse to let it go, and I'm just milking it for all it's worth. And I just pray, Father, that I forgive those who have hurt me, who have hurt those that I love, who have hurt those that I know around me. God, I just pray for their blessing. I pray for good things in their life. I pray that you get a hold of them and that a relationship with your Son, Jesus Christ, can change them, turn their lives around. And if I'm wrong, if I've wronged people, I pray that you forgive me and give me opportunity to make amends for those things if needed. So Father, I just pray that all of us that this morning can feel the same way as we go through maybe the people in our lives that we know we're hanging on. You've got to let go. We cannot hang on. No matter how much it hurt, we have to let go. You said we have to forgive, or you're not going to forgive us. We have to forgive. And I just pray this morning that if there are those who maybe see a really long road ahead of bitterness, God, they do not see it as an impossible task, but they pray for your strength and your wisdom and your encouragement throughout the process, that they surround themselves with people who can help them on that road, who can be a mentor, who can be a coach, who can be a friend, whatever it may be, to slowly just get that garbage out so they can be clean, so they can be free from those things. If there are husbands in this room who have grown bitter by situations and maybe not been the best husband in the world because of things that they've been through, I just pray, Father, that they can ask their spouse for forgiveness today and maybe be honest about what the thing is that's just driving them nuts and just learn to let it go. And if there are wives who have done the same to their husbands, who have, through whatever the wrong is in their life, have used that as a hammer, who have used that as an emotional weapon, and they're just let it go so that we can have good, strong marriages in this church and the lives of people around us. Father, I just pray we just don't back down from this challenge, that we don't end up like Moses, to where we do something at our own peril just to do it, just to feel better. We just never get to that place. Go with us this week, Father. May these actions, these small tips this morning be resonate throughout our week. In your name, amen. All right, you guys are dismissed.